against Young Link or Young Link. Yeah, it's like that scene in 300 at the very end. Spoiler alert. But like there's all the arrows. The guy's just like standing there like this, and then like the 10,000 arrows come like right at you. It's like that's what you're going up against when you give Young Link distance. And Young Link can also opt to just not do that because one of the best mobility and some of the best mobility in the game, they can just say like, yeah, I don't really feel like doing that. I'm gonna go in. Catch this down tilt.
It definitely helps here for colonies, the fact that we have these double platforms on small battlefield to really reduce how frustrating that fire hydrant may become. FD with the fire hydrant can be very, very difficult to get around Pac-Man because it feels like every time you even somewhat knock him upwards, that fire hydrant's coming right down on you.
And it takes away so much space too. Like it acts as a physical wall. And like when it's under that platform or near the sides of the platform on the bottom of the stage, like that's like a huge like second threat range that you really need to watch out and play around. Mr. Spike's doing a really, really good job here in the early going.
Yeah, Boomerang hitting, but Pac-Man
just finding
invincible.
A little bit more consistency here.
Yeah, right now we're seeing Pac-Man actually make, even though the platforms are going to negate how useful that fire hydrant can be in some situations, we were seeing, especially early on, some good usage of the tilts and such to just keep colonies on those platforms as much as possible. And just, again, shut down colonies, shut down Young Link. Don't give him room to do what he wants. Constantly stay on top of Young Link as much as possible. You can play a distant Pac-Man. You can be persistent. It goes either way. It completely depends on the player and their play style. And right now, we're seeing a much more aggressive Pac-Man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point that I wanted to bring up. Pac-Man is a character that you think of as like a slow the pace down character. I want to control the pace of this game. But no, Mr. Spikes is saying like, I know the octane of character that Young Link is. I'm going to match that. I'm always going to be doing something, always going to be charging fruit, always going to be like moving around and like just Pac-Man can do a lot of things very quickly. And if you like, the more things that you're doing, the more mix-ups you're creating because you're just like constantly doing things like, wait, is this something I need to watch out for? Is this something I need to watch out for? Is that downer something I need to watch out for? It says colonies. And we have a nice even game too. I think this is going really, really well for Mr. Spikes when you consider like just who you would expect to be more favored going into this set.
No, and we saw even right there, it's just good spacing, even with the platform that may not get as much range because of these two platforms. We saw really good use of it there to just extend his upward a little more to be able to hit that first hit of that up smash and hit through that first platform, giving a really good first kill for Mr. Spikes. And it's just plays like this where you can be aggressive, yet patient and calculated at the same time. And that's what Pac-Man is going to thrive in. And right now, you just see colonies like, you're seeing colonies be more aggressive, try and stay away. Aggressive with those projectiles is exactly what colonies wants here. You're seeing him not, like, he's throwing a projectile every 5 steps he takes, and because that's how this character is gonna thrive. You're gonna see him throw out these boomerangs. You're gonna see him drop down with these neutral airs, throw these fire arrows, this up B right there, trying for that up air. But it's these kind of plays right here that we're gonna see constantly from Young Link, and it's gonna be Mr. Spike's job to just negate him as much as possible here.
And this kind of like rope-a-dope style from Mr. Spikes is really trying to match that as well. Like you talked about, oh my, the homie orange, no scurvy today. But like Mr. Spikes is really trying to match the APM that Colony's bringing out here. Like you cannot output as many projectiles as Young Link can, but like you can. That setup was really, really nice. Not maybe a little bit mistimed, but I like the idea there. And overall, just what Mr. Spikes is doing is he's never committing too hard to one thing. Like Pac-Man has very committal moves, but Mr. Spikes is using a lot of really, really quick moves that allow him options. And like that keeps it basically keeps his flowchart wide open no matter what, and that's really what you need against Young Link. And it's a really great it's just a really great game plan and approach here from Mr. Spikes.
We saw great edge coverage there coming out with the fire hydrant there. The bell, always dangerous. Wow. Looked at the bell and just said
ambiguous.
Just literally looked at the bell for a setup, said no, walked up and just F smashed.
because you're you see that bell, and it's like, oh crap, watch out for the bell. Wait, F smash. This is the power of a character with as many mix-ups as Pac-Man has. You look out for the bell and the hydrant. A lot of times they're just a distraction because the natural moves of the character are that strong.
I completely agree, and I think Pac-Man, that's one of Pac-Man's biggest benefits to his moveset. The fact that he has so many different options to throw out, and that everyone is somewhat viable. So you can use them as distractions, you can use them as bait, and there's so much of his arsenal that you won't even use as a necessary option, but it's more so like, hey, I'm doing this thing, keep your eye on this, keep your eye on the birdie, you know?
Keep your eye on this F smash. Mr. Spike's looking great here against Colonies.
Yeah, fantastic play. Just Colonies sadly just jumped slightly, and that F smash on that platform hitting, and just great play by Mr. Spikes coming out here. Again, played patient, but made sure that Colonies wasn't getting what he wanted. You saw both kills coming out from Colonies were not necessary kills that most younglings are like, oh, I got to get this kill. That second stock kill, that was an up tilt. Like, that, you're not going to see a youngling player go and be like, oh, I'm going to set up for the up tilt. Like, it just happens. And what was that first kill? That first kill was, it was something else.
Down air.
Yeah. Like,
but
those
high
are
percent
more,
down air.
But those are more situational. It's more so for the fact that I'm in this specific situation and I can do this at this moment. Nothing that Colonies was doing to try and set up for the future was necessarily working. And you saw Mr. Spikes constantly be like, oh, I'm not going to let you get this chain or this combo off. I'm not going to let you get this setup off. I'm the one that's going to set you up.
Yeah. And I think it really all comes back to how Mr. Spikes is approaching. And I haven't seen a whole lot of Mr. Spikes Pac-Man, but this is definitely, without a doubt, this is a different flavor of Pac-Man compared to what we're used to, right? We're used to, not to paint with a broad brush, but I think when you think of the titans of Pac-Man, you think of, T and Sinji, and they really like to control space and slow the game down to play the game but against a player like Young Link, I don't know if you can necessarily do that, and you need to be able to shift into that higher gear in order to match what Young Link is going to try and bring to the table, and Mr. Spikes did that with aplomb in game number 1, and when you have that extra facet to your gameplay, you are such a scarier player yourself.
Absolutely. And I've been saying it, the game is shut down. Like, one of these characters is going to shut down the other. And at the end of the day, when you look at who has the ability to shut down the other player more, it's Pac-Man. Young Link has the ability to shut you down, but more so because you just feel like you're getting bombarded at every angle. Pac-Man has the options that can just negate Young Link's options. Like, that fire hydrant's going to block those projectiles, take those hits for Pac-Man. Pac-Man has the multitude of fruit that it can just do whatever the hell they want, depending on what fruit you choose. Young Link has his options that can shut you down, but they're limited to 3 options in those projectiles. It's you get sent upwards, you get the boomerang knockback wherever it bounces off of, and you get a bomb that's just a bomb that can get you out of a sticky situation. Yeah. But Pac-Man is just going to shut you down at every single corner and just not let you play how you want to play. And right now, Colonies needs to change up his playstyle to match that going forward.
Yeah. And now I was really, really curious to see what kind of stage we were going to see here. I think that it's almost ironic. You think about which character wants to do what in this matchup. I think almost at this point, it's almost Young Link who wants to slow the pace of the game down, get more space, get more breathing room. And I think that PS2 is a great stage for that. But Mr. Spikes might just opt to say no and say, I'm going to stay in your face. Yep, I'm going to catch this.
Regrab.
Oh, my God. Catch this regrab. Wow. Big F smash. Big hitboxes.
And when you say that Young Link wants to be the character that's slowing down the tempo, that is the case, but you also need to be careful when you do something like that, especially against the Pac-Man. We said before, this character is it has a multitude of playstyles. It all depends on the player, and it works either way, whether you're aggressive or you're patient. So Colonies can start going for this more patient, punishing style, but Pac-Man's just going to adapt and do the same thing.
And yeah, that's the catch-22 of this character. Now, okay, as good as that first stock was, look at the percent. Drex, okay, this is something I've been talking more and more about on commentary. You're a football fan, right, Drex?
Absolutely. I have a Jets
Okay.
fathead in my background.
Absolutely. So one thing I love to talk about recently on commentary is time of possession. Like 5-second stocks are really good and flashy, and we all love Yeet Smash, but when you think about who is forcing their opponent to play at disadvantage, because playing from disadvantage, is so much more mentally taxing than playing from an advantage. Like, recovering against a character like Pac-Man, horrible. No one wants to do it. And so if you can consistently force your opponent into disadvantage, these mentally taxing situations, you're winning the time of possession battle. And I think that Colonies is doing that right now. The percents don't indicate that, but Colonies has spent more time of this game playing well than Mr. Spikes has.
Well, see, let me offer you a counterclaim there, because I'm noticing
Okay.
how I feel like Mr. Spikes has been in more control of the match as a whole, while Colonies has been getting in these little hits that, just because of the nature of Young Link, can start to deal up damage much quicker. I look at it as in the nature of time of possession, or what you're talking about, time of disadvantage. I see Mr. Spikes being in the advantage more often, leading to these slower and less powerful hits, but more damage over time. While I'm seeing Colonies be able to get these quick things like this going, rack up that damage quick just because Young Link, while then Mr. Spikes is able to take back that neutral, and if not take full advantage,
my God.
at least keep it even. But right now, once again, we see Mr. Spikes in complete control.
And you know what? Your West Coast, check down offense is not going to work when your opponent is just hitting you. Every time they get the ball, your opponent is hitting you with an 80-yard bomb, because that's what Mr. Spikes is doing. They're making all these openings count so much. Time of possession is not a guarantee of victory. It's just an indicator of one trend in the game, and if you can make as much of your openings as much off of your openings as Mr. Spikes is right now, then time of possession doesn't count for crap. And Mr. Spikes is demonstrating that right now, looking to put Colonies into losers bracket very early here. This would be a huge name to go down.
Yeah. Wow, very risky there. Was able to luckily get out of that way of the S smash, but like you said, we're in the possibility to see Colonies be upset in winners quarters, like of pools, mind you. This would be a huge upset for Mr. Spikes if he can get this off. And now we're seeing this offensive Young Link come out. Little mess up right there, and
a little bit of a sputter.
At least
but
keep
there's
it
that
back.
falling there. And you know what? I love that Colonies is being aggressive around the hydrant, because you have to be. You can't let Pac-Man use it to your advantage when you have damaging moves that can set it up for yourself as well.
But also, Clamhat, we're in the point right now where whoever takes stage control next takes it.
Oh my God! Better know an F smash, ladies and germs. Same spot, same move, same direction, same result. Mr. Spikes takes it 2-0 over Colonies in pretty dominating fashion. And wow, that